Welcome back, blade lovers. OG Blade Reviews back with you once again. Formerly, This Old Sword Blade Reviews. Same guy, same reviews, different name. What can I say? You got to vary life a little bit to make it interesting. But what you see in front of you today is our topic for today. Another Microtech knife. I think I'm following Bob DeMarco's lead, and I'm kind of going down that avenue with Microtech knives. And this one took me a bit of tries to get from NC Blade, a great resource for Microtech knives, probably one of the best, if not the best inventory out there of Microtech knives. Certainly could be wrong, but that's been my experience. And I know there are other sellers out there as well to balance the statement. So you saw the name, and I hesitated with this years and years ago. I had one of the first UDTs. I think it was a UDT at the time, Underwater Demolition Team. LUDT is what they're calling it now. May have always been LUDT. Always a nice presentation in the box from Microtech with lots of info. You don't get a microfiber cloth or a pouch, as we get with many of our Chinese knives. This is a 100% USA made knife. It is automatic, out the side deployment. Let's take a look before we open it. We've got some really interesting grip tape here, and I'm going to kill that background noise. Give me a moment. Yes, it is the middle of summer here in the Northeast, and it's hot and it's humid. And I work at the lowest level of my dwelling here, and got to run a dehumidifier. Keeps it nice and keeps all the equipment rust-free. Okay. So this is the apocalyptic version. Let's just open it up. There you go. It is fast and snappy, as these out the side knives are known to be, along with, of course, the Stitch and the SOCOM Elite auto versions, which I have, by the way, but not on the table today. I've got some others for compare for, roughly the same size, which is what I wanted to do, from other manufacturers. So the apocalyptic finish means a very heavy, dark stonewash. You can see the little flecks there. It almost makes the name sometimes a little difficult to read some of the branding, and we do get a lot of branding on Microtech knives. M390MK is the steel on this one, Microtech's proprietary steel. And was getting to earlier this rubbery sort of grip tape. I think it's a 3M type of material on both sides. And believe it or not, it does not drag that much on the pocket when you're pulling it out or pushing it in. I was surprised. So it's got enough surface smoothness to it, but it's got that particular particle kind of rubbery grippiness to it. Just about right, I would say. I know some of the earlier models had the actual wing walk tape, that real sandy, tractiony sort of stuff. This I prefer. Very slim handle. This one happens to be in red. Never my first choice, but it's getting to grow on me just a bit. I was looking for a blue or a tan, which kind of looks gold. But I settled for this one instead because it was available, and that's what you got to go with. All right. Got some nice jimping up here, got some jimping on the blade, so altogether that gives you kind of this full ramp for your thumb. You also have an interesting situation here where, because of the size of this front bolster area, if you want to call it that, you can put your finger right in there and choke up, even though the choil is not that large. So you don't have a lot of space there. However, it is still available to you. All right, more background noise there, but that has subsided. Don't live alone. Other people around. I love the contrast here between the satin on the flat of the blade and the this heavy stonewash apocalyptic finish. What I'm looking to do is collect Microtechs that have the natural clear finish and the apocalyptic. I've got a few of those, and I think it's rare that they're going to make this particular model, the LUDT, in that. This is, if I didn't mention, the Gen 3, and I said I did have an earlier one. I had the Gen 1 long ago, had kind of a fluted handle. I don't think it had the insert. Didn't have as tall a blade, didn't have the fuller. Lots of differences. You may have it, and so you know the differences, or you have seen photos of them and the differences. Heavy spring on that for a little knife, and I say little knife, 3.5 inches or so. And I'll use that as my cue to measure this guy up for you. So what have we got? We've got 8 inches, and I think we can call that 3.5. If I go down near the choil area there, it's actually a sharpening choil. 3.5 inches. Whoa! And my tape just hooked the blade. Having a fun time this morning. It is morning. Millimeters blade stock. 3 millimeters exactly. This is getting to be an interesting measuring session. 0.12, and what do we have here? I'm going to call it a 1/2 inch. It says 0.49. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to call it a 1/2 inch, but it's actually a little under. I may say 0.49 by the time I put the specs up on the screen for you. Depends upon how honest I'm feeling today. All right. Weight, finally, is 3.42 ounces. Yep. So what we have is 1 ounce per inch going on with this blade. That's right, 3.5 inches and under 3.5 ounces. And that was something done years ago by Nothing Fancy, got 15 or more years ago. Kind of came up with that idea, that formula, if you will, for measuring blades and carryability and that kind of thing. I'm going to make one more little adjustment here. Let's do it. There we go. See how that brightened up just a little bit? Yeah, I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to that sort of thing. Background in photography, not so much videography. But it's early and I've only had 1 cup of coffee, so you could catch me kind of droning on. I do like the kind of glossiness or luminescence of, if you will, of the color on this, and I think it's the same when you get the tan. That's why it ends up looking kind of gold. You get a reflectance from the aluminum handle underneath. You do get a titanium backspacer, however, which is kind of neat. And that goes all the way to the pommel of the knife. So you got some reinforcement there. You don't have a glass breaker, but this is a good enough size to where, I wouldn't use it so much as a glass breaker, but you could use it as a persuader for sure. Bony parts of the back of the hand and so forth, whether it's open or whether it's closed. And who knows, you may be able to break some glass with that, although it's not too extremely well defined with any little points or what have you. Again, I was saying, nice choke up here, and I don't feel uncomfortable that I'm getting too close to the edge there. They kick it forward just a little bit if you see that angle. And so you don't really end up with a point going into your finger there. But very comfortable knife to hold. I know my good buddy there, Bob DeMarco, the knife junkie, he got into grabbing a Gen 2, I think, when he could, because he liked that better, but he saw my short on this one. And now he's getting interested in Gen 3. If you hear me out there, Bob, enjoy. Grab one. You'll love it. It is a cool knife. It's nice to have a Gen 1, 2, and 3 if you can, of certain manufacturers' knife models. What else can we show you about this before we get into the compares? Again, fast and snappy spring. No worries there at all. And as much as the handle, they kept the original with that sort of that bulb at the end there, kind of old school auto openers. It still looks great and feels great. And I got a little left over there for my hand, which I like to have from time to time. If you get into the study of some of the older Japanese knives, the Kwakens and Tantos, they very often would give you a handle just large enough for the hand. And reason for that is that it couldn't be taken away from you from the pommel side. And we do have techniques for that in many of today's currently studied martial arts. So I doubt something this small is going to be taken away from you from that angle, possibly from the blade, possibly by shocking your hand. So it's good to understand some knife methodology, but this is certainly an EDC knife as much as it is a tactical knife. And I understand, don't know if it's still true or not, this was an underwater demolition knife, that it can be opened underwater. I don't see why it couldn't be, actually. Got a strong enough spring. Rinse it off afterwards. Even the M390 MK is going to be prone to some oxidation if you don't take care of it. So here is a knife for compare, same size category, from Benchmade. This is the Mediator S90V on this knife. Interesting blade choice or steel choice. And you can see it's about ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch overall shorter. The blade, however, is coming in very much same length. We got a little more handle going on here. We do have the double lock on the Mediator. It's nicely done. It's from steel, not plastic. And that will lock it in the open position. It will also lock it in the closed position. Serrated edge on this knife. And here is another from Kershaw. This is one of the launch series, and this is the 6750. I think it's the launch 13. I'll tell you in a moment. Hang on. Launch 15. That's what happens when you name everything launch with a number after it. Thank you, Kershaw. This is an interesting, very lightweight aluminum handled knife with a very interesting Warncliffey sort of a blade. It is blazing sharp. They do this one, I think, in 154 cm. So we got all kinds of blade steels out here today. And one other I'm going to show you, but I'm going to get the name for you first. And this is the Casbah by Benchmade. This is a Grivery. You can hear that kind of hollow, very high-pitched, hard-handled sound. Also has a metal double safety on it. A little wider, taller handle. Well, maybe about the same as the Mediator. See if we can squeeze them all in here. I know we can if we try. There we go. So we've got the Microtech LUDT Gen 3. We've got the Mediator by Benchmade. We've got the Launch 15 in 154 cm by Kershaw. And we've got the Casbah by Benchmade in S30V, I believe. They're staple steel. Yep. You don't want to give it up. And it isn't a bad steel. Actually has some advantages over some of the newer ones that came by after it, such as S35DN. I'm not saying it's better overall, but it has certain properties and qualities Did I lock that? Yeah, I got to pull back on that. Sometimes I keep them locked in the case just in case somebody gets their hands on them. I don't want them. I want that knife flying open. It's one thing about auto knives is if you're not familiar with them, you don't hold on to them well enough. Well, I could have put some Microtech examples up here on the table today, but I didn't because most of them are a little larger. Some of the SOCOMs and the stitch, Vorka stitch and so forth. But I'm really liking this new addition to my Microtech auto collection. I would recommend the knife. It's really a handy auto. I would say the button, I've not been able to get that to actuate accidentally. One test I usually put it through is I take a look and see if they've concealed it below the surface of the knife. And I believe it's slightly above. But here's the test. If I push my thumb flat down on that, as if I were going to grab this knife and not know that there was a button under it, does it open? And no, it doesn't. You need to be purposeful and put pressure on that. And I think that it fires just about right. Sometimes it doesn't fire because you don't press it hard enough. But like any knife, the most flexible factor is the user themselves. So get used to what you're carrying. Make it a daily carry if your life is going to depend on it, or even your occupation or cutting stuff throughout the day. Know where you carry it, know how it holds, know how to operate it. Very important. That's tough in a day where people collect so many knives. I know I do. And rotate freely through a bunch of them, you forget kind of what's in your pocket that day. So I tend to stay with just, a rotation of a few that I'm really aware of. But I know it's tempting when you got more than that to carry them. So anyway, OG Blades here. And don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe. I will be back with you soon. I've got more stuff queued up to show you. Be well.